gentlemen, welcome to a pre-Halloween edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am your host, Calamar Man. Welcome to this. I am actually Mr. Warren Hayes, in case you're wondering. I am Mr. Warren Hayes under the guise of cephalopods. But it's the Halloween season, so this is where you can let yourself go a little cuckoo crazy like this. And the gentleman on the split screen here who is showing off his different wares is not your run-of-the-mill market peddler. No! Despite the fact that he has a beard and long hair, he is indeed the man known as Wilfred from the Wilfred Watches podcast, and he is joining me tonight on a very special edition of SmackDown Live. Wilfred, how you doing?
Hi.
Oh God, for a moment there I thought he couldn't hear me. And then it's like he's just doing all this nonsense because he can't hear a thing. He thinks we're offline still.
Boo!
God, that would have been awful. How are you, Wilfred?
I'm well. I watched SmackDown, and I was waiting for Harlem Heat to come on, and Ted Turner. I don't know what's happening. It's
important to note, Wilfred, for those of you who are watching and who are not aware of who he is, Wilfred actually has a really cool, super interesting podcast, mostly focused on New Japan Wrestling, but let's be honest, he talks about everything that is non-WWE related. Exactly. It's called Wilfred Watches. It's a fantastic podcast. I've had the chance to be on it at some point. He has some great interviews, fantastic discussions. But Wilfred, you're probably in a better position to tell the good folks what you do. So go ahead and tell the folks what you do.
Wilfred Watches is a podcast about mostly New Japan Pro Wrestling and British wrestling. We discuss all sorts of... Look at that hipster cup Warren drinks out of. Look at that. Okay, sorry. It's a twice-weekly podcast. We talk about all sorts of different things. We have guests from New Japan, Ring of Honor. We have co-hosts on all the time. Lots of cool things. Lots of cool podcasts. Try to keep it under an hour if possible. Check it out. Wilfred Watches.
There you go, and it is a lot of fun, and he has interviews. You've been landing some fantastic interviews recently, haven't you, Wilfred?
I sure have. Shall I name drop?
Well, I mean, why don't you who have you interviewed recently? Yes, for God's sake, name drop.
Recently we had Shane Taylor from Ring of Honor on the podcast. A really cool background about getting out of inner city Cleveland to become a pro wrestler. We spoke to the owners of Eve Pro Wrestling, an all-women's organization in the United Kingdom. Spoke to Emily and Dan Reed about their venture, unearthing Paige as a teenager, unearthing all the great British talent. We spoke to Warren. No, Warren's not a celebrity. Hold on. Toa Henare from New Japan. Young Lion.
Yes.
Talked about his upbringings and his roots. Also, Mark Warzeka from New Japan Global, doing all the English content with Kevin Kelly. So lots of cool things happening.
Yes. And if you do have the time, check out the interview with the Eve folks. It's a nice extended talk. Lots of discussions on gender equality and progress in wrestling. I'm not trying to make a British wrestling joke. We're really talking about progress as things go on. Really, really fun. Go check it out, guys. But not right now, because now if you're watching it live, don't go away. Stick around, because we're going to be talking about SmackDown Live. That's what I usually do on the Tuesday nights. And this is what's interesting, is that Wilfred, we chat quite a bit, and we came to an understanding, a conclusion, a realization that it would be funny to have Wilfred come on my SmackDown review recap and discuss it, whereas he doesn't watch WWE. He's not aware of WWE storylines. So, would it be fair to say, Wilfred, that you have a bit of a a preconceived notion as to what WWE, the WWE product is?
From what Twitter tells me.
Oh God! Oh boy!
It's not a lot of wrestling, and it's mostly lots of bright lights and look, mister, a lot of stuff like that. So, but the first 45 minutes of the show today was surprising.
That was pretty good. But before we actually get into it, I'm going to take just a second here to do my typical plugs. The usual stuff. Going to talk about what's left in the week of Warren programming. Tomorrow evening, Wednesday, as you know, best night of WWE programming of the week, starting at 7 p.m. with 205 Live, then NXT. And then I think, instead of having the Mae Young Classic, we're going to be entertained by NXT UK. I believe so. So we have that. And then usually I pop on FightfulSelect.com and I do my 205 Live NXT recap. But exceptionally, programming note, mark your calendars. Make sure you make a mental note. I won't be doing it tomorrow night on Wednesday, but I will be doing it on Thursday evening instead. Just a slight delay, but man, it's going to be worth it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, holy smokes, Fightful Select is the premium service to Fightful. Fightful.com. Premier news, combat sports news website. Talking about your pro wrestling, your MMA, your boxing. If you want just the wrestling stuff, you go on FightfulWrestling.com and you have all your news there. It's fantastic. But then on top of that, there's FightfulSelect.com, which is the subscription service, especially for people who can't get enough of wrestling content and wrestling podcasts. By God, to quote one Jimothy Ross, there are tons of podcasts available on FightfulSelect.com. You knew this, Wilfred. We talk about this all the time. The Weekender podcast, which is Sean Ross Sapp doing an hour programming where he recaps everything non-WWE, Impact, Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, NWA, whatever's going on that has nothing to do with the WWE. He reviews it every week. I do my 205 Live NXT weekly podcast. We also do retro pay-per-view reviews. We got 2 in the can right now. Looking forward to taping some more. Looking forward to Sean putting them out. Q&A sessions. Look, guys, go check it out. FightfulSelect.com. $5 a month. You get a whole bunch of extra content. Sneak peek. Previews to news articles. Ending up on Fightful. It's a fantastic service. And you'll be supporting a great website at the same time. So go do that. And that's going to be that for me this week. So make sure those of you who like tuning in to the 205 Live NXT recap, it's going to be on Thursday this week. But that's not a problem.
It's a pretty website.
It is a pretty website. There's a lot of content, a lot of stuff going on, lots of hard working people over there
website.
Who work harder than I do. Because right now I'm just worried about adjusting my calamari hat. But you know what else worries me, Wilfred? You know what else worries me? In a day like today when we have SmackDown, I'm worried every time that SmackDown comes out that we don't get any proper bold predictions. But don't you worry, folks. Again, today we have been blessed with some fantastic bold predictions. As I usually do, I head on over to Twitter. And then I ask folks who are on my timeline, I go out there and I ask them to give me their boldest predictions for tonight's show. Do it for Raw, we do it for SmackDown, and guess what? It's the SmackDown show, so let's have a look, Wilfred, at what the good people have boldly predicted for tonight. Shall we?
Can I just say that GIF looks better than every WWE shop tee that's out right now?
Oh, for sure. That's for sure. And the one you're wearing as well.
ProWrestlingTees.com/SmarkToDeath.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Wait a minute. Did Suter give you money to do that? God damn him. Bold predictions. Let's do this. Come on, you thing. We're going to start by Jacob Bright here. R-Truth challenges Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's Championship. She accepts, beats R-Truth, so Becky can solidify herself as the man. That's a bold... Oh my God! He brings sound effects. That's fantastic. But yeah, that's a very bold prediction in and about itself. I like the idea, and you know, it not that it happened, but I enjoy Becky Lynch and how her character is developing. I didn't think I'd take to her heel turn so well, but that's a very bold prediction. Thank you very much, Jacob. Next, we have Graham, who says James Ellsworth to replace Daniel Bryan in the World Cup U.S. Open. That's very bold. Yeah, that might actually make me tune in. We've got a couple of Crown Jewel related predictions here because we all have Crown Jewel on the brain these days, whether we want to or not. Ring of Awesomeness says Daniel Bryan gets attacked by a bunch of vegetables. The vegetables turn on the vegan. It's a heel turn. And the Great Khali takes his place at Crown Jewel. You know, Wilfred,
garbage.
There's a Khali, and there's a Great Khali.
This is absolute garbage. Next.
CM Rebel, a frequent contributor. Hulk Hogan shows up to announce he will be replacing Daniel Bryan at Crown Jewel. Now, you know what? That would have caused a meltdown. That's what I like how bold this is how everyone would have just fell apart into a pile of mush. That would have been... the vicarious part of myself would want to see that happen, but the reasonable part never wants me to see that ever. Good prediction. And Byron J. Bastion says Aiden English will blackmail Paige with her sex tapes in order to take Bryan's place at Crown Jewel. And for a really bold prediction, Shinsuke Nakamura will do something. Well, he actually did, but you know, it's kind of weird. Aiden English. But, you know, Wilfred, you probably didn't know this, but Aiden English had tried to blackmail Rusev with alleged sex tapes, but they weren't really sex tapes. They were just like, they were just properly edited or probably properly paused to insinuate carnal situations. So there's a good thought process here. And finally... Joshua Anderson, I put this one on for you. Yeah, great big schnook. Daniel Bryan is injured by Minoru Suzuki and replaces him at Crown Jewel. AJ Styles gives him the title out of fear. Minoru Suzuki to WWE. Confirmed. Wilfred endorses that one. So those are our bold predictions for tonight's edition of WWE SmackDown. We've beat around the bush enough. It's time. It's time to take the hat off because my headset is slipping off slowly.
Is that Marc Maron from
I've
Glow?
I've got a bunch of I got some dry humor for you. Hey, all right. So we're gonna start off the evening. By the way, thank you everyone who is in the chat, who's joining us live, and who is in the chat, because you can do both. They're mutually exclusive. You can watch us live and not join the chat, but you can join the chat and not watch us live. Well, you can, but it's weird. Wilfred, just before we go on, before we actually start, tell us about your main reservations regarding WWE programming in general. Like what is, let me rephrase that. What is it that doesn't resonate with you as far as the WWE product goes?
Good question.
Thank you.
First of all, when Shinsuke Nakamura is in the ring wrestling, you do not have a dance break. Let the man wrestle and perform his art. So dance breaks are pathetic. Put your headphones back on.
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
You're talking about pathetics.
No dance breaks in professional wrestling. That's my reservation.
No, but I mean in general, not necessarily tonight. Like, why? What keeps you from the WWE programming? I'm not trying to convert you.
No. It's just
we're just chatting.
Just the non-stop he said, she said, back and forth. And then the wrestling quality suffers because they're not wrestling enough.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have reservations about. I like professional wrestling, and I don't watch sports entertainment unless it's done in very small doses like Toru Yano.
Mm-hmm.
That I can stand in short doses.
Right. I get you. I understand. And, that's the main difference really between New Japan and WWE is exactly in the way they tell their stories. As New Japan builds to a pay-per-view, instead of having skits, instead of having backstage segments, they go out on tour. Then they have matches, they broadcast the matches, and they let the matches tell the stories, not just the matches, not just the stories they tell inside the ring, but then those that are meta to what's happening in the ring. It all sort of coalesces logically, but always with the focus being on the in-ring action, right?
With the first match of tonight's show, I was genuinely surprised. There was some good storytelling on focusing on Daniel Bryan's knee. I liked the focus. I liked it was a pretty smooth match. It was more than I would have ever expected. And I think that's necessary for a WWE title match.
Yeah.
But I think personally, and I'm not just trying to be somebody who's giving a hot take, I think that WWE fans have lowered their standards over the past few years in terms of wrestling quality and wrestling matches. I think that I don't think the WWE offers a strong wrestling match on a frequent enough basis for me.
I can concur with that, but anyway, that's the whole story about WWE in general, is how uneven it is. And then when we do get matches like we did get tonight, then we get really, really excited. But hey, you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the evening.
Yes.
And we're going to start breaking this one down. The show starts with AJ Styles coming out. We're in Atlanta, which is essentially AJ Styles' hometown, although, he's billed from Gainesville. I think Gainesville is like a suburb of Atlanta. I'm not sure. But they do the recap of of their feud up to now. They're talking about, how, there's shows of respect, but there's been miscommunication between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. And this is one thing that bothers me about when WWE decides to do face versus face matches. They always book them the same way. The story is always the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, I respect you. You're a great champ. I respect you. You're a fantastic challenger. Let's have a good match. Shake hands. Then you enter these situations where they're in a match together. They've been put in a tag match. And then, there's some miscommunication. Oops, an accidental elbow. Oops, I push him off the apron. And that kind of bothers me, Wilfred. It's something that gets on my nerves. It wouldn't get on my nerve as much if WWE didn't do it as much.
I agree with you, but in the WWE universe, that's to be expected. So I kind of came into this thinking, oh, well, somebody's going to talk for 20 minutes to start the show. And we're going to get into a wrestling match, but it's going to be drawn out. And then we'll get a commercial break as soon as we get into the match. So I was pleasantly surprised that we actually got a wrestling match.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was very decent, is what I would personally say.
The what happened here, and sometimes SmackDown has a tendency to surprise us with their openings, such as a couple of weeks ago when they started with having Charlotte and Becky Lynch already in the ring with the ref, introductions made, they ring the bell, and the show starts with a match with no introductions, nothing, and everyone was sort of taken aback. I think you have the impression sometimes that they use it a bit to surprise us, keep us on our toes. They have the formula. You feel that they want to try some stuff out, and I appreciate it when they do. I like when they try stuff out, like they did tonight, especially starting with such a big marquee match. AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan. That's not something uncommon. Anyway, AJ's in the ring. He basically says that he needs to get something off his chest, and he'd like to say it face to face with Daniel Bryan. Calls him out. Daniel comes out. There's dueling chants in the audience. AJ apologizes for what he did last week, and Bryan jumps right in. He says, you don't have to. I have an infinite amount of respect for you. But when I look at you right now, I don't see a friend, a respected colleague. What I see here is the WWE Championship, and I'm going to take it away from you on Friday. And AJ's like, whoa. You didn't let me finish. I said I was sorry. I'm sorry that I lied to you, because last week I told you the Pele kick was an accident, but it wasn't.
Ooh,
I know.
Drama.
Yeah.
Intrigue.
Nothing personal, but I look forward to kicking you again this Friday. Daniel Bryan
Nothing
says,
personal.
Nothing personal.
But I can't wait to kick you in the face.
It's just business. That's
Logic.
That's what we say around the office all day. Daniel Bryan responds by saying, I'm 100% honest. I don't lie, and I'm not going to lie. I feel like hitting you on purpose right now. They start getting all puffy-chested and huffing. So we don't have to wait for Crown Jewel. Shane McMahon comes out, who we haven't seen really in a while. Last week he popped in. He reappeared at SmackDown 1000, and he came out last week to give the hype for the World Cup of WWE Wrestling, to determine the best World Cup in the world of WWE Wrestling. And he comes back again to basically lay down the law and say, well, if you guys want to fight right now, let's not wait. Let's do it right now. And immediately my bells are going off, because there had been reports that Daniel Bryan did not want to work Crown Jewel. I'm sure you had heard of that.
Where are those reports? Is that via fax, or are those reports emailed?
Twitter. How else does anyone communicate these days, right? I mean, the President of the United States communicates via Twitter. That's how all his business is conducted. Well, so basically Shane makes the match pretty much to everyone's surprise, but at this point we all sort of realize that this is an out for Daniel Bryan here. So they go at it. There's a lot of grappling, a lot of back and forth to begin with. They're playing off each other, testing each other. You can tell that they're very comfortable with each other. It's very tense to begin with. A lot of disingenuous respect starts setting in. They start shoving each other. Bryan starts twisting up AJ's arm. He sends him in the corner, goes for some kicks, does an arm guillotine, but AJ fights back. Bryan reverses. There's some running, a lot of crisscrossing, leapfrogging, but Bryan eats a standing drop kick from the WWE champ. I want to say world champ, but that doesn't exist in WWE parlance anymore. Bryan does a dive. Yes, exactly. It's global. It's WWE title. Bryan does a dive to the outside and tweaks his knee. I have a thing against tweaking knees. I think it's dumb. It happens a lot. It's not that it's dumb. It happens a lot on WWE programming where someone will just do a little skip over someone or whatever, and then they'll grab their knees like, I landed harshly. So whenever I see the knee tweaking, it bothers me. But the way they used it, I don't know what you think here, but the story started here, Wilfred, where Daniel Bryan's knee would really come into play for the rest of the match.
Yeah, I want to say on that when I saw that and they cut to break, I said, okay, well, we're going to do an injury angle. They're going to bring out a stretcher, and he can't make it to global, wherever that is on the map. So I like that they continued the match, but AJ focused on it, because that's what a pro wrestling match is you attack a part of the body and you weaken that part of the body to hit your finisher and finish off your opponent. So I liked that they focused on the knee, but they didn't just, boom, injury angle, let's get out of here. So I was satisfied with that.
And sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And a little bit later in the match, I was really, really satisfied with it was closer to the end, but Daniel Bryan was going up. They were both on the top rope. And Daniel Bryan was going to go for the Hurricane Rana off the top. And AJ caught him. And I said, whoa, he's going to hit the Styles Clash. And then Daniel Bryan, powered his way up. And it was I like that interaction because it was a little different. It wasn't just, I caught you, I'm gonna slam you down. It was a little different. I like that.
And it was when you watch WWE enough, they're never gonna let AJ Styles do a top rope Styles Clash. It's the kind of things that for sure is banned. But you can't help but just what if he does it? Especially in the context of a big match, where he's wrestling Daniel Bryan, which is a marquee match. It's a WrestleMania level match. Where you're maybe he actually will do it. But no, like you said, Bryan gets a Hurricane Rana instead, and that was really cool. Bryan battles back here, and he's hitting some kicks, some yes kicks to Styles, who's on the apron, just on the outside. And AJ blocks the last kick, and Dragon screws him using the ropes for leverage. That was pretty cool. Lots of
very Tanahashi.
That's what I was gonna say. There were a lot of those. You could tell. You could tell he was channeling his.
And if you watch New Japan at all, you'll know that Tanahashi and AJ had some great matches. Tanahashi really respects AJ Styles, and Tanahashi actually used the Styles Clash just earlier this year in a New Japan match.
For sure.
So I had a little tear come down when I saw AJ do the Tanahashi dragon leg screw, because Tanahashi loves that maneuver.
It's part of his basic arsenal, and JPQ in the chat points out that Bryan was working AJ's left arm as well. Working the arm for the yes lock himself, or the arm bar in this case, because we're very close to the end. It's not exactly a blow by blow, but we are getting close to the ending here. Phenomenal forearm is countered by Daniel Bryan, who hits an arm bar suplex. He has him set up into an arm bar, suplexes him, and just locks in a beautiful wrestling arm bar, which I'm sure my pal Sean Ross Sapp was sweating over. He probably was going like this. It was a beautiful. That's the kind of thing Sean goes nuts for. It was beautiful. The transition from the suplex into the armbar was gorgeous. And we're into the final sequence here, which it grabbed me because it was fantastic. Two guys who know how to work a mat, who understand the moves, who understand each other. Daniel Bryan twists out of the armbar into a yes lock, then twists into a triangle, which AJ Styles follows into a calf crusher, then into a Styles Clash, then into a calf crusher, holding on to Daniel Bryan's bad leg. That sequence was so smooth. It was so cool. It was a beautiful finish. And Daniel Bryan, for fuck's sake, taps out clean to AJ Styles. And that, to me, is a story in and about itself. Because who's going to beat AJ Styles at this point? I have no idea. He's gone through all the legitimate contenders. He just finished off a feud with Samoa Joe. I don't know who's left on the SmackDown roster.
Can I offer a suggestion?
Go right ahead.
Now that there's one less Samoan on the active roster, how about another Samoan taking hold of that title? Who else is more deserving of a heavyweight title on the top of the game in WWE than Samoa Joe?
Listen, I have nothing to say against giving Joe the WWE title, the Universal title, the ring, Vince McMahon's limo driver.
That limo has a tendency to blow up sometimes.
True. We'll just be careful of that. Honestly, I've been preaching for Samoa Joe's for boosting Samoa Joe for months now. He was injured for a long period towards the end of throughout 2017 and into 2018 a little bit. I've been injured for a while, and I've been saying, you know, what's fantastic about, and I don't want to go on too much about it because we still have a lot to talk about. But Samoa Joe's character is he's extremely menacing. His promos are second to none. He's a fantastic heel. He's convincing. He's menacing. When he talks, when he looks at you, the stares that he has, the intensity that he brings, it's so natural and unforced. Everything he does is convincing. If he says, I'm going to crush your neck, you believe this guy. But the problem is that they put him in big matches frequently with Brock, with Roman, with AJ, and he loses. He systematically loses. He hasn't won a big pay-per-view match in over a year now, in about over 18 months. When he came back, just before he went to he was injured out. He got into a feud with Brock Lesnar. No, this was actually at the start of the year. I'm confused. My timeline is confused. But he gets into a feud with Brock Lesnar. He says, Roman's not the guy who's going to slay the beast. I'm going to do it. And he cuts that extremely creepy promo on Paul Heyman, where he has Paul Heyman and he's whispering in his ear. And you're like, yeah, he can do it. He doesn't do it. Then he feuds with Roman. Roman wins. He goes into Money in the Bank. He loses Money in the Bank. He loses the ladder match, the Intercontinental title ladder match at Greatest Royal Rumble. He loses against AJ. At some point, you have to have your big heels win some matches. Otherwise, they'll stop being convincing, and they're sort of going to become like another Bray Wyatt, which is unfortunate because Bray Wyatt was super over and super convincing as a menacing threat. But at some point, he just has to win. But I am completely for giving Joe all the titles.
You have a mindset as a fan that you think that Vince and the writing staff remember something from January or April. I mean, that's just not WWE booking. Well, that's just not their mindset. They go with the flow and make changes rapidly, and they don't care about what's happened in the past.
They can, and they've shown that they're able to draw into the past. They just did it on Monday with Seth Rollins, who called back to his own heel turn on the Shield. Actually spoke about it with his newly reignited feud with Dean Ambrose. But they're very selective about what they go back for. That I'll give you that much. But they're capable of doing it.
And that's why you have people like myself who have trouble sitting through even a 2-hour program, because you need that consistent booking. You need to have that safety as a viewer to know that what you're watching matters. And it will matter in about 3 weeks' time, and it's not going to be scrapped.
Right.
So that's part of the reservation that I have, that I'm like, oh, well, how much is this particular feud even going to matter in 3 weeks? And it seems like that kind of gets worse. And like you said, it's selective. In certain stories or feuds, they go with it and they stick to it. But, I mean...
I understand.
It needs to be consistent and across the board.
For sure.
For fans to stay invested. That's, and if they could do that, I'll happily be back on board and watching. But you need to have that consistent, and it's not always got to be long-term booking. You just need to have consistent booking.
I agree.
Things that make sense.
I agree. Well, speaking of stuff that makes sense, at the end of this match here, Bryan, after Bryan taps out, both AJ and Daniel shake, they hug in the ring, and out of nowhere, Daddy's home, AJ. Samoa Joe comes out of nowhere and knocks both guys down. Kakina clutches both of them into La La Land. And that makes me happy. And there you have it. There's your substitution for Crown Jewel right there. I really, really dug this match. And this is the kind of match that I adore. That's a lot of fun. Tells a fantastic in-ring story. But at the same time, Wilfred, you could feel that both of those guys, Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, they weren't giving us all of it. Like, they know down the line they're going to be fighting again, and that's probably where we're going to get the real payoff. This was just a treat, and man, what a treat it was.
I liked how somebody comes out at the end and destroys both of the guys, but after a long match, because it's much more believable, that it just builds that heel up even more. So I liked that move. That really gave Joe this scary dominance. I liked.
Yes, I agree. Next, moving on, we have Jeff Hardy, who talks about his career. Then Miz does the same thing. I am going to gloss over the World Cup of WWE Wrestling Best of the World Cup tournament match because it has no I don't want to talk about it all that much.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I look at that, and it's 7 Americans.
Yes.
And 1 Hispanic.
But then again, he's also born in the United States, so they're all Americans.
Sure. That is in my perspective, I think that's Vince's perception of the world, is that it is an English world, it's an American world, and he is not even up with that. Like, he's so behind the times personally, and I mean, we can get into the whole Saudi Arabia nonsense, but that World Cup is a joke. That's not a representation. You can't call that a World Cup. It's laughable.
I mean, what I think it is, and I'm giving Vince the benefit of the doubt here. I'm talking Vince, but the entire staff who books this, I really think that they booked the people that they really do feel are the biggest stars in WWE right now. You could have added an Andrade Cien Almas in there. You could have added a Drew McIntyre in there as well. But I'm going if we're going to push this thought process forward, everyone who's going over into Saudi Arabia, the talent, they're getting a nice tasty payday for going there. None of them is going for 4 figures right now. 5 figures. No one's going anywhere for 4, that's for sure. But no one's going for 5 figures. You look at who's in the tournament, if you want to call it that. They're either really established WWE names, or they're guys who have been in the company for so long that are probably it's Vince telling them, well, you guys come over. You've worked hard enough. You're all the way here. We're giving you a payday. I really think that that's the logic behind it. I think calling it the World Cup was the issue. Should have just called it the WWE Cup of Wrestling.
Global Cup.
No one would have complained if it was just called the WWE Cup of Wrestling. Then it's not. Then it's like who's the best in all of WWE? Well, but I understand. I myself find it. I think it's laughable to call it the World Cup when it's mostly Americans who were competing in it anyway. And mostly Americans and only Americans who won. But I really think that it's just a question of Vince. This is how he perceives the upper tier, the top crust of his roster. I think we see it right there.
I noticed the phrase "best in the world" a lot throughout the show. Is that a subtle nod to Jericho and?
No, I don't think so.
Is that a little? No.
No. I think it's really just. I think it's just something that they toss around just to say, that there's some importance to this World Cup. I mean, whoever wins it is going to bring it out on the next Raw and/or SmackDown, and that'll be it. We won't see it again. Kind of like Braun Strowman's trophy when he won the greatest Royal Rumble. We saw that trophy out one other time, and that was it. They even had a special green WWE title kind of thing made. We never saw that again. It's it's pretending that there's some event here that's happening that's of some significance. I really don't, because even within the company it doesn't make sense. You have the Universal title, you have the WWE title, which is supposed to represent the best in the world. Why do you need a World Cup? It says, this is to establish who is the best in the world. Well, you have 2 world titles in your company, you doofuses. Doofusai?
Doofusai. Okay, what's next?
Paige is backstage with Charlotte. She says, she basically asked Charlotte, will you be the captain of the SmackDown Live women's team at Survivor Series? And Charlotte hesitates. She says, maybe I'm not the right woman for the job. Paige then quips some inspirational Instagram posts at her and tells her to think about it. Well, that's basically it.
Hashtag Tuesday motivation.
Like, pretty much. I think it's interesting. It's interesting that Charlotte is turning down an opportunity. That's something we hear quite a bit about Charlotte getting all the opportunities and no one else getting any.
Whoa, zinger!
So I think that's kind of interesting. And I like the idea that Charlotte may be questioning herself because she has been unable to properly defeat Becky Lynch. So maybe there is something that maybe some soul searching. I'm into it. Let's see where this goes. I'm okay with that. There's some more Crown Jewel hype with the Brothers of Destruction in DX, which is pretty much all the same thing. Then we get to your favorite moment of the night, Wilfred. The Halloween street fight. Trick or street fight. I gotta say, though, the New Day coming out as the Brood had me popping hard. I thought that was awesome. Kofi as Christian, Xavier Woods as Edge, and Big E as Gangrel. The Brood has a special place in my heart. What can I tell you?
You're a sucker.
I am.
You're a sucker for nostalgia.
Well, for the nostalgia that people have a tendency to forget. Yes.
Gangrel.
Gangrel, the Brood. It's fantastic. And of course the New Day would do this. And this is what I love about the New Day and why I always say that there's no reason to split these guys up. You give them this situation and they'll still manage to do something cool with it. where they cut from commercial after the bar comes in, and we have Big E and Cesaro who are in the ring. Big E blocks a kendo stick shot. The kendo sticks painted like candy corn, Wilfred. Come on, that at least had to make you smile. Yes, you sourpuss.
There was some heavy Twitter scrolling during that kerfuffle.
The bar didn't come out disguised, aside from Sheamus, right? Who was Corey Graves was telling us that he was dressed up as some kind of ghost. You know, he basically was pale. But I mean, you don't have to go very pale for Sheamus to be pale, right? I mean, he's already halfway there naturally.
He's more than halfway. I did see a bit of a Rick Grimes Walking Dead in Sheamus. It kind of looked a little Rick Grimes.
I guess, yeah.
Also, I liked the comparison that Corey Graves made, comparing, I think Kofi was supposed to be Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Two guys who are very underrated and not really got the acclimates and praise that I think both of those guys deserve. So I thought that was a cheeky little comment.
Sure, why? Absolutely. Yeah, Graves is usually spot on with that kind of stuff. This is, of course, a no disqualifications match. So even though Big E and Cesaro are the legal competitors, it becomes a schmoz with Big Show coming in to toss everyone out of the ring. Sheamus uses the pancakes on Kofi and hits a rolling Samoan drop. Well, he does, but he does a rolling Samoan drop to the outside. That was cool. Big Show tries to drown Woods in the apple bobbing container, so that's something. They set up a table in the corner. Cesaro tries to suplex Big E on it, doesn't work out. Turns out it's Sheamus who gets shoved into it. He goes through the table. Kofi then is in the ring. He dives on the outside to on Show, but Show catches him. He catches both Xavier Woods and Kofi, and then they spit some mysterious, viscous, acidic liquid. Because you can't say the B word, and I'm not talking bitch.
Whoa!
You can't say the B word.
Warren likes the bell.
So, Show gets a face full of viscous acidic liquid. And then back in the ring, Cesaro also eats a face full of viscous acidic liquid, courtesy of Big E, who hits the big ending for the win. For what it was worth, I thought it was a highlight for this kind of match, because yes, it is a Halloween tradition for WWE to do this kind of stuff, but it's usually not this entertaining. I thought for what it was worth, I enjoyed it.
A couple days ago, if you're watching this nonsense on YouTube, a couple days ago, Warren and I talked about doing this, and I said over/under on pumpkins being used. And I think you said 1. I said definitely like 3 or more. And there was about 45 just in the ring.
Right.
They really went all out on the pumpkins.
Yeah, and they actually used them. Cesaro did a fireman carry slam on Big E right into the jack-o'-lanterns. And for real, they didn't like fall apart and smash into bits. These pumpkins were not overripe. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That must not have felt really, really good.
Hashtag pumpkin bruise.
Yeah, no doubt. Pumpkin bruises, welts, pumpkin spice welts. Okay, that's enough. There's a lot of trash talking backstage between the 4 SmackDown guys who are going to the World Cup of Wrestling, and those are what?
Yawn.
What? Yeah. Oh, well, during the segment, yeah.
For the next about 45 minutes.
Now hang on a second here. Wait a minute. This is let's hang on a minute. But here there's a lot of trash talking going around between The Miz, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, and Mysterio, who are also not only taking part in the World Cup of WWE Wrestling of the Best in the World Cup, they're doing also the main event where it's a 2-on-2 tag team, faces versus heels. But Shane is there too, and he's basically listening to them all talk trash about each other. But Shane comes out and he says, look here, listen,
look, listen.
The one thing I don't want my sister to rub in my face that one of the Raw people won. One of you guys has to make it. And whoever loses the match, the main event match, the finals of the World Cup of Wrestling WWE, whoever loses that loses their job. They won't be welcome on SmackDown Live anymore. Now, Wilfred, I'm all for adding stakes to matches. But this is stupid. It's stupid stakes because I don't get, if I'm a wrestler, and I want to hear your thoughts. If I'm a wrestler, first and foremost, I don't care if you're in some sibling rivalry with your sister, Shane, to begin with. And second of all right, fine. I won't be on SmackDown anymore. I'll just call Stephanie and she'll hire me because there's two brands within the same company. So it doesn't really matter. I find that these stakes are stupid.
I agree. I believe that there's no validity to losing your job on WWE programming. Absolutely not. Now, if NXT was a legitimate third brand, I think that would add some intrigue because there could be a storyline where, oh no, I'm Randy Orton, I have to go to NXT and get a pay cut. So,
but you're right.
That would be intriguing.
And here's something that Corey Graves has been doing on Raw recently. Just this Monday, Lio Rush forced a disqualification on his man because he's the hype man for Bobby Lashley, right? And he forced a DQ. He forced Bobby Lashley to lose the match by disqualification. And Corey Graves sort of, popped the gasket and said, what the hell is Lio Rush doing now because of him? Sure, he's Finn Balor's not getting a real victory on Bobby Lashley, but Lashley's getting the loser's cut of the purse. And I was like, damn, that's really interesting. It's like,
it is interesting.
That's,
I like that.
It makes sense in the context of a competition. Why else are these ladies and dudes fighting each other if not to make some shekels,
That is a really solid point because in Attitude Era, which was not the best wrestling era, it was the most entertaining era.
For sure.
And it brought so many in because all the casual fans who would flip over from Monday Night Raw or Monday Night Football or Nitro, they would watch it because it was very believable that the guy hated his boss.
Yep.
It was more realistic. And so when you, into this era, and you translate that into pay amounts per matches, and if you lose, you don't get paid as much, or if you get shipped down to NXT, you get a pay cut, that's intriguing. People want to hear something that's more real life because they feel like they can antiquate the same feelings as those people on screen.
And there's a reason, and it gives us a reason to believe that, maybe Bobby Lashley, this isn't the result he wanted. Maybe he did want to win, but maybe, anyway. But I think it's a lot more interesting than these stakes here that Shane McMahon proposes. Like, I don't want my sister to come rub it in my face. You guys better win or else you're going to lose your job.
Yeah, I'm not going to get the turkey leg.
Kind of thing. AJ's backstage and he goes to see Paige and he requests a match. at Crown Joel against
Global.
Samoa Joe. And she gives it to him, even though she's hesitant, saying, "Do you remember everything that Joe just did to you, to your family? What are you doing, AJ? You sure you want this? Okay." And of course, AJ is satisfied with that, but he appears hurt because he's just gone through war with Daniel Bryan. Shinsuke Nakamura comes out next versus R-Truth. Yes, that's our Shinsuke.
My boy.
Yes. The match was supposed to be against Ty Dillinger, which is a bit of a shame because they had a match a couple of months ago now. Shinsuke and Ty, just a short ditty. Not titty.
Whoa.
Ditty.
Whoa.
Ditty. Yes, that came out wrong. They had a little affair together that showed a lot of promise. It's the kind of match where you're like, okay, this was a nice appetizer. Now can I have the main course, please? So I was really looking forward to seeing Nakamura and Dillinger go at it again. But we get R-Truth again, 46 years old, who moves better than most 46-year-olds. I still think he's I personally think it's really cool that he's up there in age at a stage where just a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago, at 46 years old, people would say, nah, he doesn't belong in the ring. But man, he can still do stuff.
Can I get on my soapbox for a sec?
Sure.
Speaking to Shane Taylor of Ring of Honor, we talked about this, and yes, to his credit, his age, he's still performing very well. That's cool. But we still have these caricatures of black wrestlers that are just dancing around, acting silly. You have Big E, who's acting like Gangrel, which I know is funny and you like it. That's cute. But that's not a proper presentation of actual black wrestlers.
No, but okay,
and I just want to put that out there because I think it's a valid critique of how WWE books their characters as not very realistic.
I think that look, I agree with what you're saying, and you can even see it in NXT with the way that they handle Street Profits in NXT, which are, basically two guys, two black guys, who want to, they're hustlers essentially, kind of like Crime Time back in the 90s, it's sort of like Crime Time for a modern age. It's always the same themes that come around for as far as African-American performers go. I agree. I think the New Day are a bit in a class apart because their gimmick is to be goofy. And I don't think that has anything to do with I don't think it has anything to do with the race or color. All the opposite. If there's an act that goes beyond what they look like, it's pretty much them, because everything they do is just it's, their thing is power of positivity. It's pancakes, it's unicorns, it's what, at some point it was ice cream, cereal. Their thing is just being completely out there, completely goofy, all focusing a lot on the very geeky aspects that these guys have. Xavier Woods is a well-rounded gamer,
PhD,
a PhD, but also a gamer. He's a grade A nerd. Kofi's a very competitive gamer as well. So when they come out, like they did, was not WrestleMania this year, but the year before that, and they're dressed up as Final Fantasy characters. Well, you're like, okay, the way that they portray themselves in this situation is completely coherent with their characters and goes beyond how the perception of a black or an African American performer should be, because they're just tying themselves to other types of concepts that are very universal and that aren't limited to certain ethnicity or a certain expectation of how you're supposed to behave as regarding to where you're from or what you look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just fresh in my head
I know about
after
that.
speaking to Shane Taylor about that. And if you are interested in talking about those sensitive subjects or taboo subjects, take a listen to at Wilfred Watches. We do talk about stuff that's a little more serious. At times, we like to have fun too. So just throwing it out there. Sorry, bud.
Why? Sorry, you're here to plug your stuff.
Because I got on your soapbox.
That's fine. That's what it's for. But I will say, because I really think the New Day is an exception, but otherwise I really do agree. I really do agree about the portrayal of African Americans in the as far as characters as how they're presented. That I agree with, but it still doesn't.
Know what?
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's what I really like about Mustafa Ali, because he doesn't feed into that. He doesn't want to be gender 2.0. Essentially, he is his own guy. And look at how amazingly successful that he's been this year. I've seen on Twitter, I've seen his matches.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic.
That is a fantastic way to go about making your own presentation of who you are.
And you know, I don't want to be disingenuous or anything. No, I do want to be disingenuous. Or I don't want to, but you know, Vince has nothing to do with 205 Live, right? Let's just say that. We'll just leave it at that. So Shinsuke basically goes fights against R-Truth this evening. Truth hits a spinning leg guillotine on Nakamura early on. I don't know if you remember that move, or he launched himself into the air with a bit of a spin.
That's a cool move.
It was cool. Not quite sure what it was, but it was cool. Had some nice hip tosses on Nakamura as well. Sends him to the outside, and then your favorite part came up. It's when they did the dance break. I want to say hi to Jacob Barton. I'm gonna take a moment here while Wilfred is sighing and bubbling with rage on the inside to say hi to Jacob, who's joining us for the first time. Glad to see you, Jacob.
What's up?
Yes, what's up indeed. Back from commercial, Truth battles back with some kicks. He hits a running, spinning shoulder block, which I think looks cooler than what it actually delivers as far as impact goes. But then towards the end of the match, it's all Nakamura who takes him down with a spinning heel kick, starts striking in the corner and striking hard as Nakamura can do. Goes for a cover, but R-Truth breaks up the pin thanks to the ropes. More strikes to the back of Truth's neck, which looked pretty severe, which leads into a very iffy Kinshasa for the win. What did you think of the match, Wilfred?
Honestly, the dance break took me out of it entirely. And I was also a little disappointed that Shinsuke had less time during his entrance than R-Truth did, who got the full run. But Carmella's boots were really nice. But after
now you're reviewing like a sports entertainer. Good job on you.
But the match after the dance break, I kind of tuned out. I think I went and made a little snack. So
okay. Yeah, there was nothing to write home about, but I'm glad that Shinsuke's on TV because we haven't been seeing much of him. Hopefully they're building something for him because he's overdue. Becky Lynch, my man, comes to the ring. It's champ versus champ at SummerSlam. Now I know you don't watch much of Raw. We've established this, Raw or SmackDown. What do you think, like gut feeling, hot take, what do you feel about Becky Lynch being in the ring with Ronda Rousey?
Well, that's a fantastic matchup. and I'm curious to actually watch it. I would definitely want to check it out. But they're both gonna leave the match strong, so there's probably gonna be a double count out, or no, but there's not gonna be a clean victory.
Well, I mean,
But I'm
Go ahead.
I'm intrigued to see it. Yeah, I'm intrigued.
For sure. This is going to be a fantastic match because Becky Lynch is the kind of wrestler that Ronda needs to wrestle with, or wrestle against. But I say wrestle with in this situation because Ronda she's still very much in clay mode, right? Like she's molding. She still needs to be molded, and fighting Alexa Bliss is not the wrestler who's going to guide her to a great match. Fighting Nikki Bella is not going to be the wrestler who's going to guide her to a great match. Fighting ladies like Becky Lynch, like Asuka, hell, even Sonya Deville. Those are girls who'd be able to take the hits, who'd be able to work with her. She needs to have the equivalent of a Ric Flair with her, because Flair's greatest strength was being able to highlight his opponent's strengths while he himself covering their shortcomings. And Becky Lynch is exactly the type of woman she needs. It's going to be a fantastic match because they'll be able to play off each other magnificently. Now, where I don't 100% agree with you is the ending. I really think that as it stands, Ronda is going over. She's going to beat Becky Lynch because WWE wants Ronda Rousey to be the biggest star, the biggest woman star in the company. They'll want her to destroy everyone. That's one thing. And the second thing, they want WWE, they want the audience to boo Becky Lynch. They want her to be booed. They don't want the reactions that she's getting. They piped in boos over her promo on Evolution this weekend. That's not the reaction they want. So even tonight, you sort of heard the audience going, "We want Ronda," sort of booing when Becky started talking trash about her. I think they might actually get their wish here.
Sounds a lot like you're explaining Brock and Roman.
Yes, but the difference here is that both of them are the two women here are legit over. They're both over, but they're both over as faces, And I think in the case of Becky Lynch, the audience is like, no, fuck you, WWE. We've been waiting too long to cheer for Becky. You're finally giving her a seat at the table. We're cheering for her. We don't give a crap with what, No, we're not going to cheer for Charlotte. We want to cheer for Becky. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with Ronda in this feud. But I'm looking forward to this match. I think it's a perfect fit. It'll be interesting. And Becky's character right now is God tier. I don't think there's a better character in WWE right now.
I did make a note about Becky's promo. She heard a little bit of a Ronda chant behind her, and I loved how she subtly just turned, gave the stink eye, and then returned to her promo, and goodbye.
There you go.
That was classy.
I really liked how short her promo was. It was to the point. It wasn't overblown. It was very, very punchy. She got her point across. I don't know if you noticed her t-shirt. I'm the man.
I did. Yeah.
White typeface on black t-shirt. Remind you of anyone? No, not Smart to Death.
Oh.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. The comparisons have been going right and left about Becky being the next Stone Cold. And everyone's like, no, WWE doesn't see her that way. But then she comes out with essentially an Austin 316 t-shirt on. All that was missing was a smoking skull on the back. Because, of course, every goddamn WWE t-shirt has to have Prince on the back. I hate Prince on the back.
Your shirt is covered with ink on the back.
Well, yeah, but it's not the same thing. I don't want a design on the back. Jacob says Becky Lynch is the man. I think Ronda is is in the doghouse because giving Bliss a concussion. From what I've heard, Jacob is Ronda is not directly responsible for the concussion. Sometimes it can be a series of things, and no one's fingering no one's pointing out Ronda as the person who's responsible for the concussion. You know, sometimes in these situations, stuff happens. Samoa Joe has a quick promo backstage where he starts up by saying, "Oh, AJ," talking, wondering if his kids still sleep well at night. Asking, is our girl Wendy, I love that, is our girl Wendy still triple checking the locks at night? And he's basically saying he said it himself.
AJ's
wife.
Kid's name, or is that just,
that's
I don't
his
know
wife.
what the Wendy.
Wendy is his wife.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, there was a whole thing during their feud where he had some legendary promos and he started actually calling her daddy during a match.
Oh my goodness gracious.
It was spectacular stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, basically saying, is our girl Wendy still triple checking the locks, and basically calls out that this is their final chapter. This is the end. Crown Jewel. No, we're going to put an end to this. So I really don't think Joe's walking away with the title. I really, really don't. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We come to our main event. Main event time. The Miz and Randy Orton versus Jeffrey Hardy and Raymond Mysterio. We're going a little long on time, as I'm just realizing here. So we're going to keep it short. Hardy gets a lot of offense in to begin. He works most of the match, actually, and I thought that was interesting. He works most of the match. He works on Orton's arm and shoulder, goes for a twist of fate early on, but Miz runs in and does a double but Jeff gets the upper hand, does the double leg drop on the midsection. He goes for the twist of fate again, but Orton pushes out. Hardy goes then to the top rope, but then Miz crotches him on the ropes while Orton distracts the ref. Then Orton and Miz do a lot of double teaming. Jeff Hardy is your babyface in peril for most of this match. And Orton is mostly in control here. He works most of the match as well. His typical heel, very slow, very methodical pace. I don't know what you thought. I don't know how long it's been since you've seen Randy Orton in the ring. I don't know what you thought about this point in the match, how you felt it was going.
I thought it was a decent match. I mean, at this point in the show, I was really getting kind of tired of the show. I mean, honestly, it was getting kind of rough, but no matter how much I can't stand Randy Orton, that's the same reason I kind of admire him, because he's just like a natural born heel.
Oh, for sure.
And so, like, we had a WCW draft on the show, Wilfred Watches, last week, and I actually picked Randy first because I think he would be a great heel to start a company with. So I admire him for the reasons that I hate him. So it's kind of one of those things.
Right.
But
exactly.
It was a decent match. It's always great to see Rey Mysterio back. He's been in just about every company this year, barring Ring of Honor. It's an amazing.
He was even on a boat.
He's even on a boat.
He was on a boat recently, just last week.
It's pretty incredible that Rey Mysterio is still So it was cool. It was very neat. I like to see the Miz. He looks and just is very natural. He, I think he would be great in the top main event storyline right now. But that's my thought. Nothing spectacular.
I'm very curious as to what they have planned for the Miz. I'm not sure exactly what the trajectory for him is right now. I'm actually wondering if he might not just end up on Raw, if he might not just lose the World Cup of Wrestling of the biggest WWE best wrestlers in the World Cup, that event. He might just head back over to Raw, because I think that they could, over on Raw, they could use another a really big heel. But we'll see what happens, as usually. Back to the match, though. Ray eventually gets the hot tag, and folks are into it. Gets a seated senton on Miz. Gets a kick to the face. A jumping DDT. Has a bit of miscommunication with the Miz. See what I did there? And miscommunication. But it worked anyway. Miz hits a tilt-a-whirl on Ray. A neck breaker. Covers. Only gets 2. Miz and Mysterio do some classic Hardy Boys offense, where one guy goes on all fours and the other jumps off his back. Ray does a Hurricane Rana off of Hardy's back, and Hardy does Poetry in Motion off of Ray's back. We see the 619, we see the Swanton.
Booyaka!
The baby faces win, but after the match, RKO's for everyone. Randy Orton takes out Jeff Hardy with an RKO, Rey Mysterio with an RKO, and his partner, The Miz, because it's important to remember that it is every man for himself at the tournament. There are no friends in the World Cup of WWE Wrestling, Best in the World Cup.
You unearthed the microphone from its steady stand.
I get like that sometimes. Just like my hair sort of poofs up like it's doing right now. It's having a little pompadour action going on here.
#cute.
Oh. So that was the evening of SmackDown Live. I thought it was. I really liked the first hour. I thought it was nothing but highlights. A lot of fun. It had a good pace. You can't take away from the pace here. But SmackDown usually does really well as far as pacing the matches and just how everything rolls through. But definitely had a stellar first hour, and I think that, how do you follow AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan afterwards? What are your thoughts, Wilfred, overall on this your rediscovery of SmackDown?
I didn't discover anything, but I did. Like you said, the first hour was pretty good, and the match was pretty entertaining. I think they filled that first hour very nicely, and it did flow very nicely.
It did.
But the dance break killed me, and that's just...
Now, hang on a second. Let's just put something into context. You're up on your high horse there, Wilfie. You're talking about, New Japan, flashing your little gang signs for all your Discord crew. But the point is, let's talk about, just to
You're
wrap
on
this
Discord.
one up. Hang on a second. Wait a minute. I'm talking here. Yeah, Minoru Suzuki, right? He's the, king of pro wrestling and, untouchable, right? And he's so serious, right? And then you see him, he goes off and he's fighting guys in kaiju costumes, right? Killing the business proper.
Saving the world.
Yeah, and then you have, Kenny Omega, who starts fighting blow-up dolls, right? Don't come over here on your high New Japan horse, your bunch of little people who work for hot dogs. Don't you come over here, try to tell me sports entertainment, what's all this about? When you have Toru Yano, who runs around the ring taking ring posts off You'd think at some point, they do double knots on the goddamn posts and make sure he doesn't take them off before he comes in.
Utilizing the ring to your advantage.
Is this the hill you want to die on? Defending Toru Yano? Is this where we're at?
Let me look on Twitter archives real quick. When you gave praise to him, hold on a second.
Hang on, I love Toru Yano. I love him. That's not an issue. No, but I'm kidding. It's just I often see, and this is not directed against you. It's just I just felt like going off for a second, but I think it's
Vince in your ear right there.
What's that?
Was Vince in your ear?
Yeah, no. I'm right now. My ears are really sweaty. My lobes are dripping.
Talk about the talk.
But it's interesting. No, but it's interesting because sometimes New Japan fans, and I'm not talking about you because you're a well balanced, well thought out, reasonable young man. But sometimes New Japan fans will bash on WWE for the too much entertainment, so on and so forth. But New Japan wrestlers do have their moments of silliness, and sometimes I think it's sometimes you just have to keep things in perspective. And I'm definitely not going down a path where you shouldn't complain because Minoru Suzuki beats up guys in crab suits sometimes. That's not it. But to me, everything is a fair balance of everything. I like New Japan for very different reasons than I love WWE. I love them both, and I want them both to succeed. And I just love wrestling, and I want wrestling to be wonderful, and I want to get what I want from wrestling. I want to be able to get it from all sorts of different sources. But I think sometimes it's sometimes you become so enamored into a product or into a vision of something that you fail to see what's all around, is my point.
That is a good point, and that's what we do on Wilfred Watches podcast.
Let's wrap things up. Since we're talking about it, since you're plugging your shit again, Wilfred, I'm glad you joined me.
Watches.
Tell us everywhere where people can find you. Go right
Wilfred
ahead.
Watches
the floor is yours.
Is a PG podcast about serious discussions of pro wrestling. No calamari hats. We talk about comedy wrestling in doses, not over 3 hours. We talk about thought-provoking subjects in pro wrestling, things that matter, and we have fun as well. So follow me at Wilfred Watches.
And where can
follow the link below to do Apple, or just type in Wilfred Watches. We also have tees available on ProWrestlingTees.com.
They're lovely t-shirts.
And we have 2 designs. And if you just go in there, ProWrestlingTees.com/Wilfred Watches, you'll see the awesome designs at the lowest price points that I was offered to give. We have, look at my planner.
What's coming up? What's coming up, Wilfred?
Thank you for asking. And also thank you for having me, genuinely.
It's my
pleasure.
Lots of
fun. It was very sweet of you to invite me, and I appreciate that.
I'm glad you came.
I have a Thursday episode with @Phoenix NJPW, Amy on Twitter, and @Chetty Jin, who we will be discussing Tanahashi's hair.
For an hour. We're going to be talking about hair.
Hell yes.
For an hour.
We are going to have a power struggle.
But we can't. But a dance break in a match throws you off. But we're going to talk about hair for an hour.
100%. Yes. Then we're going to have a power struggle review on Saturday.
Oh, I can't wait for power struggle. Can we do predictions real quick? Real quick.
No, I need to go to bed. Follow @Wilfred Watches.
Okay.
And we'll do the predictions there. I'm old. Get my vitamins. Lots of cool things. Follow me on Twitter. Thank you very much for letting me be part of this.
Well, I'm really glad you came, and it changed up the dynamic as well. I don't usually have guests on, and I usually speak into the void, so it's nice to be able to have a counterpoint. And folks really do go follow Wilfred. He does really quality stuff. He's a nice counterbalance to my nonsense. So it's really fantastic. Go check him out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, Podbean, whatever you listen to your podcast on. Wilfred Watches podcast. Thanks so much again for coming over, Wilfred. Thank you everyone who watched us live tonight, everyone in the chat, everyone who participated and jumped in. That was a lot of fun. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you if you're watching later on as well. That's also very, very awesome. All we want is just a little love. So remember, folks, if you're looking forward to my 205 Live NXT podcast, that's going to be on Thursday over at FightfulSelect.com. So keep that in mind. Special time, postponed one day from Wednesday to Thursday. It's not going to be a regular thing. It's a one-time thing. Guys, thank you all so very much for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time.